Hey, what's up guys? It's Clint Coons here, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about how you buy real estate for cash with a limited liability company and the rules you should be following to make sure you can close on your next deal. All right, let's get started. Okay, so when it comes to buying real estate for cash, it's not all that difficult, but you want to put certain things in place right at the outset to make sure that that deal is going to go through without a hitch. Now, the first thing I often tell my clients, if you're going to be using a limited liability company to close on the property, you have to be asking yourself this before you do it. Do you want, the first question to ask is anonymity. All right. So do you want to take title to that property so that no one will know that you own the LLC? And if the answer to this is yes, you want anonymity. So you want to close on the property and you don't want to be associated with that LLC. Then what you need to do is you need to create two limited liability companies. Well, actually, you could create one. Let me tell you both ways to do it. Number one, let's say I was going to buy in Oklahoma. I could create a Oklahoma limited liability company here, set up an Oklahoma LLC. But before I create that, I first want to set up a Wyoming LLC down here. So my Wyoming LLC is the first entity I'd create. Okay, and the reason we're setting that up is because Wyoming, you've watched plenty of my videos, you know I'm going here. It does not collect any information. Wyoming does not collect any information on you. So it's completely anonymous, okay? So you have anonymity here. Then you set up your Oklahoma LLC. This is step two, and it's owned 100% by your Wyoming LLC. So if someone were to look at the Oklahoma Limited Liability Company, it points them to Wyoming. So that's how you get anonymity. That's the first way you can do it. The second way, and I've done this a lot too, because you don't have time to get all this done, just go and set up a Wyoming LLC. Okay, just don't even bother here. Even though you're buying the property in Oklahoma, set it up in Wyoming. Be prepared to close directly in the Wyoming LLC. Now, if you do that, okay, there's no problem with it. It's completely legal. You can own property in any state in a Wyoming LLC. You may get pushback from title, and you have to be stronger than title and push back on them and say, explain to me the law that does not allow me to close in a Wyoming LLC. I've done this a lot for our platinum clients where they're closing in Wyoming LLCs directly in property that's not in Wyoming. And title will start bringing up these stupid arguments trying to explain why it's not possible. I'll get on the phone with them and then they back down because they can't justify their rationale. So after it's set up, you know, either way you go, you get these LLCs set up. That's the first step. Now the second step, if you're going to buy for cash with your limited liability that you need to have done, you need to do the following. Okay, you need to get an EIN for your LLC. All right, that's important. You need to draft an operating agreement, okay, for that limited liability company because they're going to want to see that. All right, the title will want to see your LLC operating agreement. Now you want to make sure that operating agreement's well done. It's done by a professional so that when they look at it, they see, hey, this person's serious. They know what they're doing. You don't want to give them any reasons why they get a little squeamish and might think, well, is this really on the up and up? For example, I've seen operating agreements before that people have provided me. They said, hey, title had a problem with my operating agreement. And I look at their operating agreement. I'm like, yeah, I could see that. Well, what is it? I said, well, it's got someone else's name in it. Well, how did that happen? I said, I don't know. You copied and pasted it or you found it on the internet. You didn't do a good spell check there or proofing. That's what happened. So those can be concerns. So you want to make sure you have an operating agreement. You got to get a bank account set up for that LLC. All right. That's important because a lot of times, you know, post-closing, there may be some refund coming back to you. And so by having a bank account set up in that LLC, you're able to deposit that check. All right. The proceeds don't necessarily have to come from the LLC from closing, although if you are buying maybe from a bank, it's an REO deal, then they may require that. So knowing ahead of time where the proceeds need to come from is really important for this step. And that's why I just tell people, just get the bank account set up and plan to close wire funds out of your LLC's bank account. The other thing that's really important, you want to get what's called a certificate. I'm just going to put cert of good standing. So you order this from the state, all right? And you don't want to order it too soon. You want to get this certificate of good standing within 30 days of closing because many times title will ask for a certificate of good standing. Now, I've dealt with this on my own deals and it's so frustrating. You set up a brand new LLC. It's only been in existence for 6 days because at the very last moment you say, yeah, I'm going to buy for cash. oh, I got to get an LLC set up. So you set up a Wyoming LLC really quick like this, but you don't have time to get the bank account set up, of course. And title will ask you, hey, we need a certificate of good standing. Well, it's brand new. Why? You know it's in good standing. That's just what they require, because many times, what I've found in talking to these people is that they just need to paper their file. They have underwriting guidelines, closing guidelines, whatever it is. They got to have all the docs, check, check, check. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense, all right? It's not logical. So get that, but it has to be within 30 days in order to close. So now you're able to go to closing and take title in the name of this entity, if this is the route we're going or the other route. Now, if you went this route and you close directly in the Wyoming LLC, and this property's in Oklahoma, well, if you're going to make it a rental, okay, you intend to rent the property out, you should get this thing filed in Oklahoma. So you would then, the third step, if you went this route, so this is kind of like, well, let's call it 2.2 or 2.1. You would foreign file your Wyoming LLC in the state where the property is located. Mine's in Oklahoma. But before you foreign file, so let me put 2.2. So this was 2.1. 2.1, this one's foreign file. Before you do the foreign filing of this LLC, if you want the anonymity, then what you need to do is create a second Wyoming LLC down here, right? And make this one the member of this one. Now you're probably saying, why would I do that? Well, it's because this is what happens. I've seen this happen a lot with individuals who follow this strategy and they don't understand. They want anonymity. They set up a Wyoming LLC and then they foreign file in Oklahoma. We see just because Wyoming doesn't require you list the managers or members, that has nothing to do with Oklahoma. So when it gets registered in Oklahoma, the Secretary of State's going to ask you who's a member or who's the manager of this limited liability company. And then, of course, it's you, then your information's disclosed. Even though it's a Wyoming LLC, now that information is out there. So if you want to protect your anonymity, then step 2.1 is set up a second Wyoming LLC to be the member of the first LLC. That should be your second step if you're going this route. If you didn't do that other one I just showed you up here, oh, wrong pen. If you didn't do this one where we created the Oklahoma to begin with, if you didn't go that route, if you didn't do it this way, this was the one option, then you're in this option down here. The second option is going to be set up in this manner, just like that. Okay, now, the third thing to consider if you're buying for cash in a limited liability company is, what do you intend to do with that property? That is, are you going to do a cash out refi, or are you going to hold on to it? Now, if you're going to hold on to it, you're golden. But if you intend to do a cash out refi, then we need to dig a little deeper in the analysis and say, is that going to be with a qualified mortgage lender or a non-qualified mortgage lender? Now, if you don't know the difference between the two, a qualified mortgage lender is like Freddie Fannie, right? They underwrite under Freddie Fannie guidelines. A non-qualified mortgage lender doesn't use Freddie Fannie guidelines. And so under Freddie Fannie guidelines, a qualified mortgage lender cannot do a cash out refi on a property that's in a business entity if it's residential real estate. So what you would have to do in this context, if you bought in the LLC, you would then need to transfer it into your own name like this in order to do the cash out refi. Now, the problem with that structure is that many times they're going to require you have 6 months of seasoning on the property. I mean, it's been held by the same owner for 6 months. Now, here's where the BS creeps into this. Freddie Fannie guidelines state that you're allowed to use tacking, which means that if I held it in this LLC here, which I was the member of this limited liability company for 3 months, and then I transferred it out to myself, I held it in my name for 3 months, I've met the 6-month requirement because it was my LLC that owns it and then I own it. And that would work for refinancing. But the problem is you're dealing with a broker. And just because they state you can do this tacking, many times in my experience, they'll say, nope, we will only do that deal if it's been owned by you for 6 months. You say, well, look at the guidelines. Doesn't matter. That's how we're going to do the loan. So I would be careful about that. If you want to do a cash out refi, then I would tell you, don't worry about any of the LLC setup. Don't even buy an LLC. Buy in your own name if you're going to do cash out refi with a qualified mortgage lender. Now, if you want to go non-QM lenders, they don't care about all this BS that Freddie, Fannie's looking for, they'll typically underwrite the loan, do a cash out refi directly in the LLC name. So if that's the case, then you can leave it in the LLC and you don't have anything to worry about because you're going to get the deal done. But I would just advise you to do this. Check with the lender. All right. Make sure they're on board. Before you go about setting this up, if you know you're going to do a cash out refi on that deal, check it with your lenders. Make sure you got it all. Everyone's in agreement that, hey, yes, we can do this. If I close in an LLC, you'll come in, you'll give me a cash out refi on my property. And I won't have to put it back into my own name. Because you kind of defeat the purpose. If you set it up in an LLC that has anonymity, you move it out to your name to do a cash out refi, then you put it back into the LLC. Well, I'm going to see that paper trail if I was a creditor attorney, and I'm going to know, even though you have anonymity with your LLC, I'm going to know that's your entity because you just put that title back into your name. Hey guys, I can teach you other strategies about pulling properties out of limited liability companies, buying into LLCs. I do that on my one-day tax and asset protection workshop. We teach them about every other Saturday. I got a link below in the show notes. It's completely free. You want to learn more about this, land trusts, and other entities and how they work for real estate investors. More importantly, you want to know how to use real estate as a tax shelter to take your income and not pay tax on it. You want to come to this one-day event. It runs from 9 to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time. Myself and my partner Toby Mathis will be drilling into the strategies that we use in our own investing to build our portfolios and keep our taxes as low as possible. Hope to see you there.